Welcome, everyone, to Latter Daily Digest. It's Tuesday, August 20th. It's John Dehlin's birthday. Happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday, John Dehlin. Mormon Stories Podcast, God.
And today I have with me Backyard Professor, and he has a show. How many years ago did you start your channel? And it was...
What was it, like 15 now, 14?
15 years ago, and you've done a lot of chess on it.
Yeah, 15 years ago, I was a Mormon apologist doing all the regurgitation of the old Fair and Farms material. And I did that for a few years, got 1,000 videos made. That's how energetic I was. And then lost my faith, jumped on chess, and now thanks to Radio Free Mormon about 3 or 4 years ago, got me going back. So here I am.
That's right. And we had you on Sunday, and you mentioned that Robert Coe was very instrumental in having a new paradigm on your outlook on things.
Michael Coe, yeah.
Today we're going to talk about, did I say Michael Coe?
You said Robert.
Oh, I combined them. Yeah. So
okay.
Today we're going to talk about Robert Ritner. Yeah.
Oh, we forgot to show our shirts, Gene.
Yes, so we're wearing our Superman shirts in honor of John Dehlin and Robert Ritner.
The two Superman on this subject.
And we're going to talk about Robert Ritner's appearance just prior to passing away. He passed away July 25th, 2021. And in a way, this show will also honor his passing 3 years ago, last month. Kerry shirts in the house, going to talk about how hearing Robert Ritner on Mormon Stories Podcast affected his life. We'll have him read this 1-minute Mormon story.
Dr. Robert Ritner, an Egyptologist on the Book of Abraham. This is the 1339th podcast, the number to look it up. In this episode of the Mormon Stories Podcast, host John Dehlin interviews Dr. Robert Ritner, a renowned Egyptologist, about the Book of Abraham. Dr. Ritner provides an outsider's perspective on the historicity and the authenticity of the Book of Abraham, discussing the apologetics surrounding it. The episode also features RFM, Radio Free Mormon, who offers his insights as an amateur historian of the Book of Abraham. Dr. Ritner shares his background in Egyptology, his education, his passion for the field. He also discusses the challenges he faces due to a health condition and the need for a kidney donor. The episode aims to provide a comprehensive understanding of the Book of Abraham from an academic standpoint and to highlight the importance of accurate historical research.
And so we honor those two today. And yes, I actually remember listening to this episode live. I was going to my dentist and I was in the parking lot and I didn't want to go into my appointment. I was like riveted. And it was, I hadn't heard of who Radio Free Mormon was. Who is this blip on the screen that's like flashing every time he talks? And he seems to be saying things from a semi-faithful perspective, but with a little bit of a intense curiosity, I would say. He's deeply curious about what a professor would have to say about the Egyptological rendering that Joseph Smith put on the Book of Abraham. And so that's sort of how it affected you as well. But you already knew who Radio Free Mormon was.
Yeah, I knew who Radio Free Mormon was, just barely though. He tried talking to me behind the scenes for 4 years before I finally let him interview me. I had dropped off the scene altogether from podcasting, and Radio Free Mormon actually convinced me to come back. And then after I got done with him, he helped me get back involved, and him and Bill Reel. I started out with Mormon Discussions Live for a while, and now I'm broke off on my own. And it's been an awesome experience. It's really cool being back, and now there's so much more to discuss, share, and analyze, etc. And this Robert Ritner podcast, you want me to go ahead and do my spiel on Robert Ritner?
Yeah.
Superman of Superman.
Yeah, so you could either have an overview of him and his life, or you can talk about how
I'll
this
just give you my
impacted
impression.
you in
Yeah.
particular.
He was without question at least in the Western world, the foremost Egyptologist. His professor, this is the book he wrote, the Joseph Smith Egyptian Papyri, a complete edition. His professor was Dr. Klaus Baer, whom Hugh Nibley took Egyptology lessons. It was only for about a year and a half maybe, and tried like crazy to do a quick catch up on Egyptology because the papyri had been given back to the church in 1967 to the delight of all the Mormons until they figured out what the papyri really say. And they have been beating their heads against a wall and lamenting and wailing ever since, because, of course, the papyri don't give us the Book of Abraham. Joseph Smith did not translate the papyri accurately. That's it in a nutshell. Robert Ritner is, in this text especially, now I have noticed that the Mormon apologists will not touch Ritner. They will give, let's say, a trivial point of view so that they can, out of this book, so that they can put his name in a footnote in an article when they're trying to defend the Book of Abraham, but they cannot refute Robert Ritner. They've had 2013, this one, but the original hardcover came out in 2011. They've had 13 years to refute him, and none of them have done it. Now, of course, Ritner is also known as the teacher of John Gee, one of the other famous Mormon Egyptologist apologists. Unfortunately, he chose apologetics over scholarship. And the remarkable, interesting thing about Gee, Ritner had to, basically it forced his hand, because I know the people who got Ritner involved. I know them personally. They're friends of mine. Kevin Graham is one of them. He's the one that asked Robert Ritner. He said, "Yo, hey, I'm Kevin Graham. You don't know me from Adam, and I don't know who you are, but the University of Chicago says you're an Egyptologist. Here's what the Mormon Egyptologist John Gee is saying about the Book of Abraham. Can you either verify or let us know what the heck?" And Ritner wrote back and he said, "John Gee, you say, that's my student. And this is not the quality of Egyptology that I taught him. His stupid poopery, nincompoopery, reflects on me." And so Ritner got involved.
That's a scholarly term, right? Nincompoopery?
Absolutely, when it comes to the Mormon apologetics on the Book of Abraham. Fundamentally so.
And
So
so you already knew about the book, Robert Ritner's book?
yes, I did.
Okay.
I did not get a chance to watch the live of
Mhm.
Robert Ritner. In fact, it was quite a bit later when someone asked me, "Have you seen Robert Ritner on John Dehlin?" And I said no, and I went and watched, and I watched with a mouth open and completely floored. I spent all 13 hours. There's 13 hours of review of the whole thing. His work, the LDS work, his response to the LDS response. This book is not the only item, by the way. He also responded to the essay, the church essay. And he wrote an article in the Journal of Near Eastern Studies. He wrote an article in Dialogue. He felt like he was carrying on the legacy of his professor, who was Klaus Baer. And he did an able job of that, without question. But this is a one-man wrecking crew. Robert Ritner is the Bruce Lee. You watch any Bruce Lee movie and you'll see that he could take on 6 or 7 people all at once. There you go. Robert Ritner's Bruce Lee, and the Mormon apologists are all the goons trying to beat him up and fight him, and they can't. He single-handedly, every one of them, Kerry Mulstein, Hugh Nibley, John Gee, Michael Dennis Rhodes, he absolutely manhandled them. And I am being very gentle when I say that.
He almost offered them on the sacrificial altar, I might say.
It's not Abraham. That is Mormon apologists on that lion couch being slain. Yeah. And the thing is, and here's what's so interesting is it's not out of antagonism. I mean, sincerely, the interview with Robert Ritner, it made me laugh. It made me cry. It made me wonder. It amazed me. It astonished me. It had everything. And he's not nearly as dramatically antagonistic like I am in some of my review videos. I have to be antagonistic because from what I was raised to believe to today and how the leaders are responding to some issues, they need to be slapped. That wasn't Robert Ritner's approach. He was simply expressing, this is Egyptology. This is why I love it. It is mysterious. It's a fascinating subject. The Joseph Smith, I wouldn't have ever got involved in at all if my ridiculously off the path Egyptology student, John Gee, wouldn't have made such a complete butt of himself.
Tapir, we'll call it.
Tapir, yeah. If he wouldn't have been so ridiculous with his misuse, which did reflect on Ritner, and that's why he got involved. I'm very grateful that he did. My good friend D. Michael, sorry, that's D. Michael Quinn. I did not know him. I met him once. But my good friend H. Michael Marquardt was able to write the first chapter. Quite an honor for a non-Egyptologist in Robert Ritner's book. Very cool. Mark Conan has a chapter in this, as does other people. Very, very powerful book. I'm grateful to John Dehlin for getting Robert Ritner on, and I'm grateful for having those long slogs, which to me were not slogs. I truly wish Ritner had been in better health. I actually did ask Dehlin, why didn't you go longer? And he said he was sick. The third one, he gave everything he had to try to be coherent. See, that's very stingy on my part. You know, I felt bad, but he goes, no, there are a lot of people who were wishing him well, who were just really desperately hoping he could go on for another month. But he just couldn't. He was dying, and he did die shortly thereafter.
That's right. And
so we're grateful.
John Dehlin's show is, preserves history in a way, in that way.
Good way to look at it.
For
real. Yeah.
And I think RFM,
this is the last will and testament of Robert Ritner
as
an Egyptologist on the power of Egyptology and why the modern Egyptologists have not disagreed with the Mormon Egyptologists antagonistically because they don't like their religion. Robert Ritner made that very crystal clear. He said, whoever wants to worship, however you want to worship, is fine with me. Don't lie about my craft.
There you go.
And he wouldn't let him get away with it. And he didn't. So I would strongly encourage people to watch that.
And I think RFM's contribution was great. It kept things moving along. He was
terrific. Yeah.
Bits of humor.
I think Robert Ritner really enjoyed it. You know, on the phone with RFM, I talk to him on the phone all the time now, but back then I had a good couple hour long conversation where he told about there were times when Robert Ritner would call him or he called Robert. I can't remember which way, but he would talk to him for hours. Now, here's one of the world's foremost Egyptologists talking to please forgive me, RFM, a literal nobody, maybe in the field of Egyptology. You really are somebody on podcaster. And so Robert Ritner was explaining to RFM how he hoped that he hadn't hurt anyone's feelings and that he didn't come across as evil's the wrong word, but he said,
overbearing, we'll say.
Yeah, he definitely did not approach it as an anti-Mormon, hating Mormonism because he didn't know anything about Mormonism. Really, truly, the only real thing he ever knew was through Joseph Smith's translation of the papyri.
Right.
He really
And
didn't
his
know a
own
lot about
learning
Mormon.
of hieroglyphics. And it's really interesting. He, like you say, he talks about all the different aspects that you'd want to know. And we encourage everyone to go to that episode. Like we say, we can bring it back up again. Episode 1339. And then there's also 1340 and 1341.
You won't regret 1 minute watching those. They are beyond incredible. The best work John Dehlin has ever done. Now, I know Dehlin loves the interview with Dr. Michael Coe entirely appropriately, properly. So I did too. But for me, because my thing is the Book of Abraham, the Ritner stuff is more priceless, more valuable than gold to me. It's priceless. So thank you so much.
We will let people know that on your channel, there are, we'll say, more than 2 episodes that you present on either the Book of Mormon or Egyptology or the Gale Project.
Yeah, I've done a little bit
all
with
those
Dan
things.
Vogel. Yeah, I've done a little bit with Dan Vogel, but I'm intending on doing an entire series where I can describe my journey of figuring out what the hieroglyphics mean, etc., because I had been studying the LDS apologetic side, and they are the ones, which is so unfortunate, but they are the ones who are confusing the issue and muddying up the water. And when I got my dear and good friends, and now I'm not going to be able to find it.
Is it
Dan Vogel? Yeah, the Book of Abraham.
There
it is. Book of Abraham Apollo. I think mine's up there. Yeah, that's the book, Dan Vogel. When I read through that, the clarity was absolutely exquisite. And I contacted Dan Vogel, and he came on my show quite a few times, and we talked about that. So there is some. And then The Method Infinite by my dear friend Cheryl Bruno, Joe Steve Swick, and Nick Latursky. They have a chapter on the Book of Abraham that is really, really magnificent and interesting too. I don't want to, if you haven't gotten Method Infinite, it is the Freemasonry and the Mormon Restoration. You are missing out. You really need it. Greg Koford books. It's fabulous. So anyway, yeah.
So yes, happy birthday to John Dehlin. We love you, John. Keep up the good work. He's produced 40,000 hours, and maybe he's going to do 40,000 more. And I'm just kidding about the 40,000. It's probably somewhere around 7 to 10,000 only.
Only, you boy.
And so we're going to try to do this series all week long for the happy birthday part for people that want to wish John happy birthday. John's happy birthday week.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John. Happy birthday to you.
It was reminiscent of the lion in Wizard of Oz for a second. Courage.
Courage.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
Share, like, and subscribe. That's the way podcasters grow and make their money. I have recently been monetized, and I'm up to $25.13 or something like that.
Oh, you've hit the big time. Woohoo!
Big time.
Good job.
Everybody have a good rest of the summer. Bye-bye.